This week we're going to be talking about the squat. Now, as you can see, what I'm basically doing is I'm leading you through this sequence, through this progression, starting from some basic movements, getting into more isolated, more advanced movements, that type of thing. But the squat is one of those basic things we have to understand how to do properly. We use it throughout the day. It's very important for us as we get older for strength, mobility, these types of things. So understand that when you squat, it's very, very important to keep your back straight. Remember, we talked about the hip hinge. Your hips are going to hinge. They're going to hinge as you squat. So we want to allow that to drop down. We want to keep the back straight. Now, you are going to get a lot of good core work when you're doing squatting. It actually helps develop your body's natural weightlifting belt, the core that's going to support and stabilize your trunk and really keep your body strong and keep from getting injured. The other thing that's very important is to make sure your knees do not travel in front of your feet. Now, one of the things I try to teach people when they're squatting is this. Think about when you sit down in a chair, when you sit down on the toilet, okay? You actually sit backwards as you lower yourself down. This is exactly the same with squatting. It's amazing how many times I go to teach this movement, people struggle with it because they think they need to keep their body straight up and down. Remember, as you sit back, you're gonna move the hips back, you're gonna sit down gradually. Now, I will demonstrate this to show you kind of what I'm looking for and what I mean when I talk about that. When we squat, again, it's going to be important that back stays straight, we hinge at the hips, and we don't allow the knees to travel in front of the feet. When they do that, you're putting a shear force on the knee, which is going to lead to a lot of tendonitis type issues. Remember, I said think about sitting on a toilet. So when we squat down, we're sitting backwards like this, okay? Now, in this position, my knees are not in front of the toes. My back is straight, my hips are hinged. This is very, very important when you're doing any type of squat, whether the hands are going to be here, hands are out in front of you, you're holding the barbell, you gotta stay back. Now, when you push and when you squat, what you should feel is equal pressure from your toe all the way to your heel. Good solid base that you're pushing from. You shouldn't feel yourself on your toes. You shouldn't feel yourself rocking back on your heels. It's equal from the front of the foot to the back of the foot, and that'll give you the best base of support and the best stability when you're doing the squat movements. So with the movement, feet about shoulder width apart, hands on the thighs, we're going to reach down, out, squat down, and stand up. Just like that. From the side, again, you're going to see how deep I go. Keep my head up, back straight. My knees do not go forward over my toes. We want to work at increasing that flexibility in the ankles and the Achilles tendon. Go as low as you can, trying to get at least a parallel if possible. If not, that's fine. But over time, you try to go lower and lower. The weight is going to be in front of you, so here's how it's going to look. From here, and back up. Just reach out and back up. From the side, same thing. Reach out and back up. Keep those knees behind the toes. Doug Warner Rivet 60. The back barbell squat is one of those basic movements. Now, leading up to this, you should have done things like the air squat, the plate squat, the goblet squat. Getting used to that squatting position with some resistance. And when you do the back squat, very, very important that you keep the back nice and tight, chest out. That support has to stay there so you don't injure yourself. You do not want to round over. So your back shouldn't look like that. It should look this way. You'll notice that as I do the lift itself. Now, I also go fairly deep. I do believe it's very, very important to work a full range of motion in every exercise that you can. You'll see that over the course of all my videos. I stress that, talk about that. That helps keep us mobile and strong through that entire range. So what you want to do is go down to a point that you're comfortable. Don't try to go too far and get out of position and hurt yourself. You should feel the pressure on your feet evenly from the heel to the ball of the foot. Do not put a weight plate on your heels to help compensate for that. All you're doing is not allowing your Achilles and your calves to stretch out so that you can get that range of motion and have that flexibility in the ankle. So again, that's an important piece. Another thing, you'll notice I try to keep my knees behind the toes. The farther forward the knees travel, the more shear force is put on the patella tendon, and the better chance of developing patella tendonitis, or actually a further injury outside of that. Doug Warner, Rhythm 60. Now the front squat, again, is one of those basic movements. Quite a bit more advanced, but it's really, really good to do, really good to use. Again, should have done some other squats leading up to that, especially the goblet squat. Now, what you'll see here, again, I'm going to go as deep as I can. Back's going to stay straight. Weight is going to be balanced on my feet between my heels and the ball of my foot. I'm going to use the grip with the hands like this, where I rack it up on my shoulders. A lot of people I see do this. That's okay, but try to get to this point if you can, because what that does, that helps open up that thoracic area. It also helps keep better shoulder flexibility as well. So keep those things in mind and watch the video. Now the overhead squat is the most difficult squat you can do. Doing this movement is very specialized. It is something you have to really, really work your way up to. So don't just jump in there and start doing overhead squats. Now when you do this, again, the back has to stay straight. The knees don't travel over the feet. You want to get as much depth as you're comfortable with. It's important to maintain that balance up and down so you don't see the weight moving back and forth very much. It stays pretty much in line from the wrist to the shoulders, perpendicular to the floor. You'll notice that as I do the movement. Now this is something that we do a lot with competitive Olympic lifting, but now that CrossFit has really picked this up and done it, a lot more people are doing it in the gym. A lot of people are actually getting hurt doing it. So start this off using a broomstick or PVC, get safe, and be comfortable with it.